props to Floyd for career control. And what I mean by that is just basically self-explanatory, taking control of his career. Um, Years ago, buying out of that top rank contract and for all intents and purposes, take just becoming his own man in the sport. Um, it really is amazing, and to me, this is Floyd's legacy: is the money he's generated in the sport and the way he's transcended the sport, all the big events, and it really is amazing for a guy who is a smaller fighter. I mean, you're talking about a guy who fought from 135 to 147, 1 to 154, but a smaller fighter generating this type of money, and a smaller fighter with not a fan-friendly style, generating this type of money. It's incredible. If you really sit back and just think about it, that's incredible. I mean, if you look at the fighters who have generated the most money throughout boxing, I mean, names like Oscar De La Hoya, Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, Jack Dempsey come to mind, all fan-friendly guys. I mean, Floyd's the trailblazer in that. I mean, he's a low-risk, high-reward guy. Doesn't take many risks in the ring. Defensive style fighter, at least he has been since he moved up to 147. When he was at 135, he was more of a killer offensive fighter. But since he's been a pay-per-view attraction, casual fans do not find him exciting. They constantly say how boring he is, yet he's generating all his money. And think of all the money he's basically his own sports franchise in Vegas. I mean, Vegas loves him, the amount of money he's generated for that city. And I can't say it enough. It's incredible for a guy 147, 154, not a heavyweight, not a bigger fighter, and not fan-friendly, generating this type of money. And you got to tip your hat to the guy. Just think of all the big events. You got the Conor McGregor fight, who is probably going to break the records. Then you had the Pacquiao fight. Then you had the Canelo fight. And he was part of the De La Hoya, although he was the B-side on that fight. That fight with De La Hoya, he was a part of that one. He's a big part of that one. And then the 1 million pay-per-view buys in between that. It's incredible the numbers he's put up. And to me, that's his legacy. Just one of the big, if not the biggest attraction in boxing history. The numbers he's put up. I mean, just a great, you got to give it to him, a great businessman. Whatever you think about him, whatever you thought about the fight Saturday night, and I thought it was a decent fight, to be honest. And but he's let a lot of people down in the big pay-per-views, but you can't deny the money that people kept coming back. So obviously he's doing something right. And it's good to see athletes take control of their career, because I remember watching a Real Sports segment, and this was before Hopkins' fight with De La Hoya. And De La Hoya dumped Lou DiBella, and Lou DiBella came on Real Sports, and he was just pissed. He was talking about how much of a cunning and horrible person Bernard Hopkins was, and his business ethics were bad and whatnot. And I'm thinking to myself, this is a boxing promoter talking like this. And boxing promoters are evil. They're a necessary evil. So I remember saying at that point, who is this guy to be talking? And it was good. I was happy that Hopkins backstabbed this guy. And I like the fact that Bob Arum is sitting back pissed that he's not getting any of Floyd Mayweather's money. I like that. And I wish Floyd would have used his power to give us better fights. I've always been a critic of his fight selection, but you can't deny the fact I've always been consistent, and I'm that way in everything. I'm that way with politics and everything. I want people to keep more of their money. I'm for less taxes and smaller government and less people in your pockets, and people capitalizing, hardworking people capitalizing on their hard work. And Floyd, why should he have to pay this guy if he's the one in the ring getting hit? If he can find a way to get rid of that guy and find a way to not pay that guy money and keep more of his money, I'm all for it. and he's done it. He's kept a lot more of his money. He put people around him that take less of a percentage, like Leonard Ellaby and Al Heyman, who takes a smaller percentage than what a promoter would pay. And he's a self promoter. He's out there doing the work with his mouth. He's out there doing the work with his fists. And now he's passed the torch to Conor McGregor, in my opinion, who is now the biggest name in combat sports. And you're going to see Conor McGregor do the same things. You're seeing Conor McGregor doing the same things that Floyd did in boxing, in UFC, in the MMA world. I think he's done 1.2 million buys, 5 straight fights in the UFC, and now he's part of the biggest boxing match in pay-per-view history. So the numbers he's putting up right now are incredible. And I think you're going to see him do numbers in the UFC that are astronomical. You can see him approach 2 million buys, which is unheard of in the UFC world. Now that he's been successful in a second sport and he's going back to UFC, and people are going to welcome him back with open arms, and the type of numbers he's going to be putting up. And I wouldn't mind to see him I wouldn't be surprised to see him make a power move and try to wrestle more money away from Dana White. It's a different world than the UFC, because Dana White and the UFC control what's going on. But Conor McGregor already made a power move. He told Dana White in the UFC, hey, I want to go into boxing. I want to make this money. I can make more money. Like he said, I can quadruple my net worth in one fight. I want to go. And you better believe they were saying no for a while. And Conor McGregor is saying, no, I'm going. And you're going to make this happen for me. So he's making power moves too. So props to him for his career control. And you better believe he's going to be in a boxing match again if the money's right and if the fight is right. I think he has to be smart. Being a part-time boxer, he's got to be smart about the fights he takes on. He can't take on like a Canelo or a Triple G. He just can't do it. He's proved me wrong already. I didn't think he'd hang in there for 10 rounds with Floyd. I didn't think he'd knock out Jose Aldo in less than 20 seconds either. So he's proven me wrong already. So who the hell knows? But he's got to be smart about who he fights in the boxing ring. But I mean, as far as the business goes, all credit to Floyd. All credit to Floyd. I mean, he's generated, what, over $1 billion for himself in the boxing ring? It's incredible. Not a fan-friendly fighter. Smaller weight classes, and he's putting up these numbers. Just a master promoter. Great businessman. And I think he's smarter than people let on as far as business. I don't think he's going to spend his way into bankruptcy. I don't think he is. I think he's smarter than that, and I think he has other avenues to make money. So I think he'll be just fine. And props to him, man, for keeping more of his money. And, you know, I think he's surpassed everybody in modern boxing history. I mean, he's generated more money than Mike Tyson, if I'm not mistaken. And he surpassed De La Hoya. He grabbed the torch from De La Hoya. He somewhat handed it to Canelo, but Canelo was already big by the time he fought Floyd. And I think he's been pretty even in that since he fought Floyd. But to me, Conor McGregor has the torch now. I think he's the biggest fighter in combat sports history, and you'll see him put up those astronomical numbers. But it's hard to determine where he stands with guys like Jack Dempsey, because that was before pay-per-view numbers. It was just a different world. And even Joe Louis, when Joe Louis fought Max Schmeling in that second fight, everybody in America was glued to their radio. So it's hard to say if there was somehow pay-per-view back then, what that fight would have done. So it's hard to compare and contrast from that era to today's era. But as far as modern boxing history goes, there's nobody who can compare to what Floyd has done in a boxing ring business-wise. And it's good to see athletes take that career control. For the life of me, I don't understand why certain fighters do what they do, paying. And even Floyd has done this. I don't understand it, paying sanctioning fees for belts they don't need when they're already at a certain point in their career, and they don't need that belt, yet they're still fighting for it and paying sanctioning fees. I don't understand paying that extra tax. I don't understand that. I don't understand why certain fighters are holding on to a promoter. I mean, look at Andre Ward. I don't like that he was inactive for that long in fighting who he's fighting, but you got to give it to him. He's done with HBO now, so he's looking for another TV deal, and you're gonna see more. Miguel Cotto did it. I think he's a better example. He did the 3-fight contract with Rock Nation. He got out of that. He left Top Rank for Rock Nation, got out of that, and now he's um, going 1 fight for 1 fight with Golden Boy. And I think you're going to see more fighters, once they get to a certain point in their career, follow that blueprint and do shorter deals, shorter term deals with promoters, smarter deals, that way they're not locked into these terrible contracts. Like I don't understand why Manny Pacquiao is stuck with Bob Arum for so long. That's another one that kind of baffles me. But you see fighters loyal to certain promoters when the promoters don't always have their best interests at hands. So I think fighters are starting to realize that, and you're going to see more fighters do that. I just hope that they use it. It doesn't matter who Floyd, if Floyd was his own promoter or if Floyd was with Bob Arum, he still would have been fighting who he's fighting. You know, I'd like to see fighters test themselves more. That's always been my criticism of Floyd, but I do like the fact that he's kept more of his money. Good for him. And hopefully more athletes are able to do that in their careers. They're the ones taking the risks in there. So props to Floyd for that career control, and Conor McGregor too. He's the one now. He's the biggest draw in combat sports now. So let's see what he does with it. Let me know what y'all think about this. I'm out. Peace.